Hey, folks, welcome to. Oh, I was about to say the wrong channel name. Welcome to Roll of Law. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a lawyer who also happens to have a secondary channel as a music geek here. As a role playing game geek. I was reading the chat and my brain went down multiple directions. How's everyone doing? It's an interesting day. I totally forgot they were dropping the OGL playtest today. So then I was like, I got to schedule this in and I got to work it around my lawyer's appointment there because it was just incorporating today. So somebody was noting I have the wrong name down. I do indeed. So I've just fixed that. So, yeah, we've been sort of covering this OGL stuff, which really isn't what I wanted to be covering. There's all sorts of things I'd rather be talking, but yeah. And I see they were supposed to drop it tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I was kind of expecting, but here we go. So today we're going to look at this OGL playtest, and first, I guess we'll start with just their commentary about it because they didn't just drop the playtest, they have a bunch of sort of description about it. So let's go through all of that and we'll sort of see here. Maybe I'll just expand myself so that we can see the full. There you go. Now we've got me full size there. All right. So let's bring this up just so that we can see things and know what we're all talking about. All right, hopefully that's big enough that people can read it. Let's see if we can enlarge this a little bit just so that it's properly legible. All right. So, starting the OGL playtest by Kyle Brink, who appears to be the designated fall guy on this one. If I was Mr. Brink, given that they have now basically volunteered him to be the face of all of this, I might be making sure I had a resume that was fresh to go, because usually when they start setting somebody up like this, often the next step, if this doesn't sort of work, is, well, we fired Mr. Brink. So I hope that's not what they're doing to this guy, because quite frankly, I don't think Mr. Brink is actually responsible for any of this. I doubt that they're letting him near the legal language. I think they're just sticking his name on it so that he can be a face for us to be upset at. So don't send Mr. Brink angry messages because he is probably getting screwed just like the rest of us. So let's sort of have a look here. So they say for over 20 years, thousands of creators have helped grow the TTRPG community using a shared set of game mechanics that are the foundation for the unique world and other creations. We don't want that to change. We've heard that, and we've heard that loud and clear that neither do you. So again, we've got this kind of mealy-mouthed corporate stuff, but this was going to be included no matter what. So I see people noting he just started in October. Yeah, I'm guessing that it's like, hi, welcome, new guy. Good luck. So, yeah. All right. So we're doing two things. One, we're giving the core D&D mechanics to the community through a Creative Commons license, which means that they're fully in your hands. We're going to talk about this because that's interesting. Two, if you want to use quintessentially D&D content from the SRD, such as Owl Bears and Magic Missile, OGL 1.2 will provide you a perpetual, irrevocable license to do so. Well, I like the irrevocable aspect and the perpetual aspect, but we shall see what we're looking at there. Hi, new guy. Have you seen the underside of this bus? Yeah. I feel like that is, yeah. He's been working there 3 months. Totally responsible. Yeah. So that, I think, is what we're looking at here. Creative Commons is a nonprofit dedicated to sharing knowledge, and it developed a set of licenses to let creators do that. The Creative Commons license we picked lets us give everyone those core mechanics forever. Because we don't control the license, releasing the D&D core rules under the Creative Commons will be a decision we can never change. Now, they are engaging in some shenanigans here that we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to actually looking over things. But for right now, I'm just going to sort of highlight that there are some shenanigans going on. And yeah. All right, let's talk. Now, I think that the whole because we don't control the license thing is really a response to the orc. This is them trying to say, listen, we don't have, because the orc said we're going to put this in the hands of a third party. They're saying we did that too. We did that too. Everything's fine, right? So, yeah, that's sort of where I think they're going with that. And I just forgot to post on Twitter that we're live, so I'm just doing that right now. So just posting that up just so that we're everyone's aware. All right. Now, and I see some interesting comments in the chat here. By calling out 1.2 as irrevocable and perpetual, are they doubling down on 1.0a being revocable? You bet they are. Yep. I see people saying the orc is going to be just as bad. It will still have clauses against hateful content. Maybe. We'll see. We will see. So now let's talk about, sort of what they're going on with here. Let's talk OGL 1.2 and the important ways it's different from 1.0a. First, it allows us to address hateful content. Why is this necessary? And it allows you to do a lot more than that. It allows you to pretend that hateful content is the issue, but it allows you to do so much more than that. So let's have a look here. Second, it only applies to published TTRPG content, including on virtual tabletops. Third, this license specifically includes the word irrevocable. Now, they're starting to add in, hey, we're allowing virtual tabletops. They're still full of it on that. So what's not in there? There's no royalty payment, no financial reporting, no license back, no registration, no distinction between commercial and non-commercial. Nothing will impact any content you have already published under OGL 1.0a. That is a bit of a wrinkle there. So let's look at that. So that will always be licensed under OGL 1.0a. Your stuff is your stuff. So we'll talk about that too. Because I don't think they're being entirely honest here either. There's a link at the end of this note where you can download a PDF of the proposed OGL 1.2 along with supporting documents for your review and feedback. Before you scroll down and grab it, let me give you a few details on what's in there. And we're not just going to take his word for it, folks. We're going to go through it and actually break this down. Protecting D&D's inclusive play experience. As I said above, content more clearly associated with D&D, like the classes, spells, and monsters, is what falls under the OGL. You'll see that OGL 1.2 lets us act when offensive or hurtful content is published using the covered D&D stuff. We want an inclusive, safe play experience for everyone. This is deeply important to us, and OGL 1.0a didn't give us any ability to ensure it. So remember, guys, this is the scary thing that they want. They want to get you afraid or upset because that will get you to allow them to push through some stupid stuff. So remember this guy every time they push this stuff forward. Every time they do the look at the scary clown thing, you should assume that they are pulling a fast one, because that is why you do the scary clown. That's why that's there. Politicians do this too. They'll say, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists, or you're with the people who make CP or whatever else. That gets you to just shut down your thinking about this and say, oh, yes, we've got to give you more power so that you can do that. And I mean, the real question is, do we actually want Wizards of the Coast being the cops for the internet? Maybe not. And I see some people like the clown, some people not so much. I may have to get a new scary intro, especially because that one's 17 seconds long. I'll get a new one there. So yeah, this I don't believe for a second. And quite frankly, I mean, why would they volunteer to be the cops of tabletop role playing? So TTRPGs and virtual tabletops. OGL 1.2 will only apply to TTRPG content where they're published as books, as electronic publications, or on virtual tabletops. So now they're adding in virtual tabletops. They're going to say, hey, listen, we've gotten all this criticism about how we're trying to create a sort of monopoly on the virtual tabletop market. And we want to shut everyone down. So now they're including virtual tabletops, and we'll see that they're actually still pushing what they're looking for. So, and the whole inclusive play experience, this will also mean that they basically get to throw an accusation towards lots of people of, listen, if you have a problem with this, it must be because you are, racist, sexist, homophobic, etc. Don't let them do that. That is a dishonest and disingenuous game. And quite frankly, yeah. So deauthorizing OGL 1.0a. We know this is a big concern. The Creative Commons license and the open terms of 1.2 are intended to help with that. One key reason why we have to deauthorize, and again, it's not entirely clear 100% as to if they can deauthorize, but that's a court battle that's going to be super expensive. We can't use the protective options in 1.2 if someone can just choose to publish harmful, discriminatory, or illegal content under 1.0a. And again, any content you have already published under OGL 1.0a will still always be licensed under OGL 1.0a. So we have to deauthorize it because scary clown. Scary clown, guys. Otherwise, the scary clown. Yeah. And I see D&D is for nerds. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later because you're kind of stealing some of my ideas here. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what the deauthorizing, if they succeed at doing that, also means. So very limited license changes allowed. Only 2 sections can be changed since once OGL 1.2 is live. This is actually a good part. This is actually something they're improving. So I will give them credit for this. This is an improvement. And it's something where I predicted that they would play a fast one, and they actually don't appear to be playing a fast one on this specific bit. So how you cite wizards in your work and how we can contact each other. We don't know what the future holds or what technologies we'll use to communicate with each other. So we thought these 2 sections needed to be future-proofed. And there are good reasons for that. Let's say Wizards of the Coast sells everything and Hasbro goes bankrupt and they're selling off their assets cheap, and they sell D&D to, I don't know, Kobold Press. And now Kobold Press would probably want to update that now that they'd be the new ownership to say you got to credit Kobold Press. That seems reasonable. Or if Wizards does a major rebrand. Somebody says, any plans on doing system agnostic material? I do a planned video on that. So I see people, please sell. Yes. I think at this point, a lot of us would like to see that. For completeness, let's sum up what else is in OGL 1.2 and supporting documents. Virtual tabletop policy. We will continue to support virtual tabletop usage for both OGL creators and virtual tabletop operators. This is not really honest, but it is what they're going to try to claim. The virtual tabletop policy spells this out. Ownership disputes. You own your content. You don't give Wizards any license back, and for any ownership disputes, you can sue for breach of contract and money damages versus holding up products other players are waiting for while we sort it out. We're going to talk about this in a big way because this is we'll talk about that. No hateful content or conduct. If you include harmful, discriminatory, or illegal content, or engage in that conduct publicly, we can terminate your OGL 1.2 license to our content. That's actually an expansion of what they were doing before. Creator product badge. You'll have the option to include a badge on your OGL works. I like the option. We'll see if that's actually optional. Once we get feedback on the badge, we'll create a guide on how to use it and display it. Cool. Overall, what we're going for here is giving good faith creators. What is a bad faith creator? Like, come on. Or the same level of freedom, or greater for the things in Creative Commons, to create TTRPG content that's been so great for everyone, while giving us the tools to ensure the game continues to become ever more inclusive and welcoming. By kicking people out, that's how you're making it more... maybe. That seems interesting. Okay, now for the actual documents. And there's a link here to the draft. We're very interested to read your thoughts. Our team does a great job compiling all of the playtest feedback for us in a comprehensible way to reflect and act on, so I'm confident they'll do the same here. After you've read the new SRD 5.1 introduction, OGL 1.2, and the virtual tabletop policy, 1, provide your feedback on the review documents in our survey, which will be live tomorrow. We'll update this post with the link. I'm going to do that. I will actually provide my feedback in the survey, but I am also going to continue making videos like this because I think that they still need to get the public criticism, and they still, well, you can decide for yourself whether you think that this is still time to, to boycott. And I mean, personally, I am not signing up for anything. I'm not going to go see the movie. I'm not anything until things get better than what we're looking at. The survey will remain open until February 3rd. We'll talk again on or before February 17th. We'll share what we heard from you and updates to the OGL document as a result. I suspect that they're going to say, hey, we've heard everything is hunky freaking dory. The process will extend as long as it needs to. We'll keep iterating and getting your feedback until we get it right. D&D is my life's hobby because I'm fundamentally a co-op gamer. Let's tackle this together. Kyle Brink, executive producer, Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Now, none of this is legal language, right? All of this is just their description of it. So I say, please review the survey. There were some shenanigans in the Wizards of the Coast Magic surveys. If I see shenanigans going on, I will, I'll do a video on it. Yeah. Now, I've got a scotch here. This is not going to be like a Super Chats for Drinks stream. That's not how I roll, but I am thinking maybe I would like to have a drink on this one. And TA, I see your comment there. It is something we'll get to, and I agree. That seems to be what they're saying. Now, there's some really nasty stuff on that, and I'm going to sort of note this one right now. D&D Short said that their inside contact says they don't even look at these surveys when they're going to be as big as these were. I am not putting any weight on anything D&D Short says at this point. D&D Shorts at this point has had to walk back that particular thing. And D&D Shorts has had a few moments of having to walk stuff back. So they may be right at times, but they've been wrong enough times that I'm just not going to rely on them. So that's my call. You can put your own weight on that. But yeah. Let's see, D&D Shorts has retracted that statement. Yeah, they've had to do that. So a YouTube lawyer who doesn't encourage people to pay him for him to drink, a welcome change. I drink because I want to drink. And I also don't want to get smashed on this stream. So we're talking law here today, folks. We're not going to do that smashed. So, many ways to create. Dungeons and Dragons content is available to you in many ways. So they note the core D&D mechanics, which are located at pages 56 to 104, 254 to 260, and 358 and 359 of the System Reference Document 5.1, but not the examples used on those pages, are licensed to you under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International CC BY 4.0 This means that Wizards is not placing any limitations at all on how you use that content. So, guys, what do we know about mechanics? Well, mechanics, they don't own. You can't own a mechanic. Like, you can't like own a mechanic, dude. So, yeah, this is something where they don't actually have the copyright to the core D&D mechanics, because you cannot have a copyright in the core mechanics. That is well established. Now, they're saying, hey, listen, to the extent that they're giving us a license to the expression of those mechanics, that's useful. Cool. But you can't pretend that you're doing a Creative Commons license on the mechanics, because you don't own them. And, they're trying at this point to pretend that they have a greater copyright than they do. If I'm just using the underlying mechanics, I'm not attributing anything to you, because I don't have to. You don't get to license to me under Creative Commons, because you don't own a license. Now, they're going to try to say, hey, listen, we're going to, in the same way that you can't like copyright the idea of a book. It's just, you don't get to do that. So they're putting this in to say, hey, listen, we're doing a Creative Commons thing. Just like the orc has another, a third party who's going to be the holder of this. We're doing that same thing, guys. And, but they're only doing that for the stuff that they literally can't copyright. Now, if they're giving us, they do seem to be giving us the right to the expression, which is helpful, but they are specifically excluding the examples. I'd have to go through pages 56 to 104 and 254 to 260 to see what exactly they're getting here. But I don't think they're giving away a whole lot here. So, and I'm seeing you don't get spells, monsters, classes for the Creative Commons with those pages. Yeah, I'm wondering if we even get sort of an example page, like an example, like, oh wait, it would be an example, so we don't have that. So, yeah, anything cited there is free to use without attribution. The difference is that the actual specific explanation, like using their language word for word, would be something that they're licensing here. So they are giving away some stuff with this, but not a lot, and a lot less than they're pretending they're giving us. So, yeah. And somebody's asking, did I see what DS9 creators did with the Babylon 5 Bible that was given to them? No, I have not seen that. And Winslow Wonder, have a drink or two tonight on me tonight. Thank you. I'll appreciate the sentiment, but as I said, it's not a chug stream here. 258 or 358 to 359 is just condition descriptions. Yeah. All right, so let's look a little further here. Our copyrights in the other content included in the system reference document are licensed to you under the Open Gaming License 1.2. Okay, we'll talk about that. Use of D&D content in virtual tabletops is allowed under the terms of Wizards' virtual tabletop policy, which right now just links to wizards.com, but it's actually in this document, so we can check it out later. Use of D&D content in streaming, fan art, cosplay, and other fan content is permitted as described in Wizards' fan content policy. We're going to talk about that today. Let's talk about what they're doing there. Because, yeah. And somebody says, I cut together a version of the SRD with only the allowed CC pages, and it looks super doable for me and the things I've been publishing. Excellent. We'll talk about that in terms of what you can and can't do. I want to do a video where I just take an adventure that I've written and de-Wizards of the Coast it and put it to something where I think I would be immune from their criticisms, but I can't say for certain that I would be. So let's that'll be a video that I do on another day, but yeah. All right. Platforms such as D&D Beyond and DM's Guild provide additional paths to share your D&D content under different license terms. Those license terms are exceedingly abusive. If you put it on DM's Guild, all the stuff that you hated in the OGL is in there. So, yeah. Creator product badges for content published under the OGL 1.2. You may use one of the following badges in the manner specified in the Creator Products badge style guide, which again, we don't have yet. So long as you comply with that guide and using the badges, Wizards licenses you under the OGL 1.2 to use such a badge on any of your licensed works. This is an improvement. I will straight up say that this was an improvement because before they said that you would be required to use the badge under whatever guides. And because of that requirement, it created a real way for them to slide in backdoor contract terms. Like, hey, listen, we're not charging small creators anything to use the OGL, but the badge will be $100 and you're required to use the badge. That was kind of how the previous draft was written. And they say draft, although you see how this one has that big draft watermark, which is something you do on drafts if you're a lawyer. This one, the other one didn't. So, this is what we're sort of looking at here as this, but quite frankly, this is a place where I'm going to give them points. This is better because you may use the badge, you not must. So this allows you to, if you want to mark your stuff in this way, you can, but you don't have to. And they say it says somewhere that using the badge negates the need to include the full text of the license in your product. Also potentially a useful thing. So that's also an improvement. We'll see if that gets there. All right. Notice of deauthorization of OGL 1.0a. Now, it's not clear if they can actually do this. And certainly some people are going to end up suing them. And by some people, I mean, it sounds like Paizo will probably end up in a lawsuit with Wizards, but possibly other people. This is going to be something where there will be litigation over this. The Open Game License 1.0a is no longer an authorized license. This means that you may not use that version of the OGL or any prior version to publish SRD content after whatever date they set as the effective date. It does not mean that any content previously published under that version needs to update to this license. Any previously published content remains licensed under whichever version of the OGL was in effect when you publish that content. Okay, let's stop and talk about this. So let's say you've got a book, and it is the Book of Kittens and Sunshine, which was under the previous OGL. There's a few different scenarios here. Let's say the Book of Kittens and Sunshine was published using the D&D 3.5 SRD. Well, according to this, there is no 3.5 SRD after this point. They're saying it's only there for 5.1, which means they're basically trying to kill anybody and the notion of anybody who's still playing 3.5, that you can't make content for that anymore under the SRD. They're absolutely stopping 3.5 or 3.0 SRD content is what they want to do. Now, previously published. Okay, so let's say I have put out I've sold 10,000 copies, the Book of Kittens and Sunshine. I'm doing really good because 10,000 copies in the third-party game market is a lot of copies. Let's say I want to do a second printing and I want to do another 5,000 copies. Well, is this going to mean that it's a new publication? Maybe. And I'm probably not going to want to put out my 5,000 copies of the Book of Kitten and Sunshine because I don't want to get sued over this. But more to the point, that one is debatable. If it's word for word exactly the same as the other one, then it's debatable as to whether I could publish it under the OGL. But let's say I want to improve it slightly. there's a couple of places where we discovered that in the first version of the Book of Kittens and Sunshine, this one power was unbalanced. So we corrected that. This other power was unclear. Like, we didn't mean to, but it could be interpreted as this power works one of two ways. And so we just changed our phrasing so that it's clear. And we also fixed like 6 or 7 typos. Well, you wouldn't be allowed to put that out under 1.0a under this, because that would be a new publication. So when they're saying, oh, we're not, like this still has huge impact. And, they're going to say, oh, well, we're just allowing all the old stuff. Not really. All that old stuff is basically, if you're relying on the previous OGL and you're not willing to sign on to the new one, your products are basically dead in the water. See, if anyone wants a great kitten RPG, I recommend looking at Magical Kitties Save the Day. And another option here is Prototopics has Hardy's Travel Agency. I think that the first episode is coming out tomorrow, which also includes maybe not a kitten, but a cat. All right. Draft for discussion purposes only. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you put in something when it's a draft, and it wasn't in our previous stuff, the watermarks, the draft for discussion. Like, yeah. Whoops. And I see Saturday. Yes, it's coming out Saturday. I want to check that out. I want to do one of the travel agencies. So Prototopics, let's get that scheduled. All right. This is a license between Wizards of the Coast, LLC, Wizards, us, we, our, and anyone who wants to use this licensed content in their own TTRPG, your. By using our licensed content, you agree that to the terms of this license. This is interesting because, I mean, the other ways are just to, use it for fair use or fair dealing. I don't know that that's accurate, but they're basically claiming it. As used in this license, we, or any other term referring to us, includes our affiliates, successors, and predecessors. So this language is nothing really to be worried about. I mean, this is a bit of a push, but clearly the court will find that there can be, fair dealing and so forth. And yes, this will have to happen. And I hear the too much work stuff. Yes. That I feel in a big way. Licensed content. Content covered. 1. Our licensed content. This license covers any content in the SRD 5.1 or any subsequent version of the SRD we release under this license that is not licensed to you under Creative Commons. You may use that content in your own works on the term of this license. Okay, so our unlicensed content. Only our licensed content is licensed under this license. That's a sentence. Only our licensed content is licensed under this license. Say that 3 times fast. Okay. Any other content we release or have released is not licensed to you under this license. Fair ball. Like everything else, they're saying, hey, we get to keep some stuff that's just for us. And like, that's fair, right? Because, if they put out Wizard's Guide to Corporate Bastardry, please don't demonetize me, YouTube, then that's fair. That's their book, right? And, they don't necessarily want everything to be incorporated into something else. Okay. Your content. This is your creative contributions to your work that are not our licensed content or our unlicensed content. This license permits you to combine your content with our licensed content and distribute the resulting works as authorized by this license. Okay. Carrying on. Works covered. This license only applies to printed media and static electronic files such as EPUBs or PDFs you create for use in or as tabletop role-playing games and supplements, TTRPGs, and in virtual tabletops in accordance with our virtual tabletop policy. They're going to say that they're allowing virtual tabletops. They are really not, but we'll get to that. So your license works. To be a licensed work under this license, it must 1. Be a covered work as defined in Section 1B. Contain both our licensed content and your content. So what that means is you can't just put out a thing that is just their content. You've got to include some content that is, other content, and 3, not contain our unlicensed content. And copyrights, we are licensing you our copyrights and our licensed content, except that under Section 5A, we also grant you a trademark license to the Creator Product Badge, as further detailed in the Creator Product Badge Style Guide. You receive no other rights to our trademarks and no rights to any other intellectual property we own. This is important because, they've got all sorts of other stuff like pictures and, they don't want you using names like Mordenkainen and so forth to imply that it is their product. So this is not unreasonable at this stage. License. In consideration for your compliance with this license, you may copy, use, modify, and distribute our licensed content around the world as part of your licensed works. This license is perpetual, meaning that it has no set end date. Non-exclusive, meaning that we may offer others a license to our licensed content or our unlicensed content under any conditions we choose. And I mean, that's fair, right? They are allowed to make deals with other people. And irrevocable, meaning that content licensed under this license can never be withdrawn from the license. That's also fair and a good thing, but the irrevocable that they're using here, I should note that this means just to anything that is licensed under it. So far, I haven't seen an irrevocable that applies to the license itself, but just to the licenses to specific products. And the reason why that's important is because if I put out the book of Kittens and Sunshine, then there's then a license between Wizards and me on that book. But I want to see something irrevocable in the OGL itself, that the OGL offer is irrevocable. I see Mordenkainen is a Finnish folk hero from the... okay, so I guess they can't own Mordenkainen if that's the case. Not Wizards of the Coast. They were like 500 years too late. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Mordenkainen might not be the best thing. Drizzt, Elminster, Waterdeep, all of these things, they've got trademarks on a bunch of junk. And note, it's perfectly acceptable to refer to their other stuff. And so I note that somebody's saying this license is irrevocable unless we revoke it under paragraph 6F. Yeah, we'll talk to that. Mind Flayer and Beholders are owned. I've heard that Mind Flayer might have fallen into the public domain, but we'll have to see. What you own, your licensed works are yours. They may not be copied or used without your permission. We're going to put a big old asterisk on that. Big old asterisk. You acknowledge that we and our licensees, as content creators ourselves, might independently come up with content similar to something you create. If you have a claim that we breached this provision or that one of our licensees did in connection with content they licensed from us, A, any such claim will be brought only as a lawsuit for breach of contract and only for money damages. You expressly agree that money damages are an adequate remedy for such a breach and that you will not seek or be entitled to injunctive relief. Okay, let's talk about that. So I'm going to go back to the Book of Sunshine and Kittens. Let's say I put out that book and Wizards of the Coast comes out with the Book of Kittens and Sunshine. And I'm going, that's my book. Like, that's the same book. You just mixed the title up. They're saying, hey, listen, you can't sue us for the copyright violation, which is where you'd want to be suing them. You'd want to sue them for the copyright issue because copyright has all sorts of provisions, including that you don't necessarily have to prove actual damages because actual damages is super tough. So I would have to sue them for breaching the contract. And the other thing is I can't stop them from putting out their book at the same time. Now, I'm sitting here in my home office, with my, random junk lying around. It's me and my sword putting out the Book of Kittens and Sunshine. And I'm now competing with the Book of Sunshine and Kittens. And they've got this huge, huge printing, facilities. They've got the ability to put things into game stores where I probably don't. They've got the ability to tell the game stores things like, hey, if we hear you're selling the Book of Kittens and Sunshine, we're going to stop selling you any of our content. We're going, so you can't actually get an injunction to get them to stop putting this out while this is going on. And normally that's something you might actually want to seek because that's a huge deal. So, yeah, this basically says that they can trammel over you on that. And you're going to be trying to prove how much money you actually lost because of this, which might be real hard to do. And in any such lawsuit, you must show that we knowingly and intentionally copied your licensed work. Access and substantial similarity will not be enough to prove a breach of this Section 3. How would you prove that they knowingly and intentionally copied it? Like, how would you ever establish that? You couldn't. So this is still basically going to allow them to do, like, this is an incredibly broad provision. What they're trying to do, what they're afraid of is basically that, let's say they come up with the idea of the Book of Sunshine and Kittens first. They're worried that if I come out with mine, that they'd say, oh, we have to mothball this thing that was that we already were working on because this other guy came out with it first. But the problem is that that's something that, movie studios and so forth deal with all the time, right? You just sort of are able to say, hey, listen, we had no, we didn't look at their stuff. We didn't, do any of that. Like, this is not hard. This is something that, is not a big issue. Movie studios don't have to be like, we have to make sure no one else can produce movies because otherwise somebody might accuse us of stealing their idea. So I don't like this at all. It is still, it's not quite the same degree of license to steal that the previous one was. But a big company could certainly decide, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and put out our Book of Sunshine and Kittens. And at the end of the day, maybe we'll have to pay some money, but it won't be as much as we make off the Book of Sunshine and Kittens. And we can bury him in legal fees in the meantime. And he doesn't have any of the benefits that you would normally have, like the ability to say, hey, can you stop destroying the market for my own work? So, yeah, not super thrilled about this clause, but again, it is an improvement, but an improvement that still has us in the territory of I still don't like it. All right. Yeah, and how would you ever prove knowingly and intentionally? Like, unless you've got an insider who says, yeah, we copied your work intentionally, and, we actually had a big coffee meeting where we sat around and we laughed at you because of how we were stealing your stuff. Like, where would you even get that evidence until discovery? And how would you survive a motion to dismiss without some evidence to assert this? So, yeah, you control your content. You can make your content available under any terms you choose, but you may not change the terms under which we make our licensed content available. That's fair. That I think is okay, where they say, like, listen, you can't give better licenses to our stuff, but you can do whatever you like with us. I like this provision. You must clearly indicate that your licensed work contains our licensed content under this license, either by including the full text of this license in your licensed work or by applying the Creator Products badge in compliance with the then current style guidelines. So the badge is a shortcut for, so that you don't have to include the full text of the license, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you may permit the use of your content on any terms you want. However, if any license you offer to your licensed work is different from the terms of this license, you must include the license in the licensed work, the attribution for our licensed content found in the preamble to the applicable SRD, and make clear that our licensed content included in your licensed work is made available on the terms of this license. Fair enough. And good night, Cassie. So warranties and disclaimers. These are things you promise. Age and capacity to be bound, so you're old enough and you can make contracts. Authority. You have the power and authority to enter into this license and perform its obligations. For most people, this is not going to be an issue, but this might come into issue if you are, say, working at a corporation. And I see here somebody was asking a good question here. How can this copyright supersede copyright law? There are statutory damages in copyright law because you're agreeing that you won't sue them under copyright. And so if you go and try to sue them under copyright, they will say, this is a breach of the agreement. You said you wouldn't sue under copyright, so you can't sue under copyright. So copyright law still exists. You've just agreed you won't use it. And I mean, you can give up claims. You can say, hey, we're not allowing that. So yeah. And I see somebody noting something here. We'll get to that one. So no infringement. Your license works do not and will not infringe any third party's intellectual property rights or any of our rights not licensed to you via this license or any other. So basically, your work can't be just somebody else's work or can't be otherwise infringing. Yeah, this is something I would expect to see. No endorsement, except as otherwise expressly allowed by this license. You will not state, suggest, or imply that your license works are endorsed by or associated with us. This is also reasonable. Like, hey, please don't say that you're like that this is a Wizards approved product. Because we didn't approve it. We didn't say it's good to go. We never reviewed it because we don't do that, is where you would probably have it. And I see somebody saying, how would it work in Europe, given that some of these points would be illegal here? They would say there's a severability clause in here somewhere that says if some of the points are illegal, then the rest of them apply. So that is typically how that goes. They may end up later creating a separate Europe agreement to avoid that. So, all right. No illegal conduct. You will not violate the law in any way relating to this license or your licensed work. So it's sort of difficult to imagine where that would come in, although there are so many laws out there that it's kind of hard to say that you can't, that you're certain that your work doesn't infringe anywhere. But this is also a fairly reasonable, fairly common clause. And then we get to the one that isn't. No hateful conduct or content or conduct. You will not include content in your license works that is harmful, discriminatory, illegal, obscene, or harassing, or engage in conduct that is harmful, discriminatory, illegal, obscene, or harassing. We have the sole right to determine what conduct or content is hateful, and you covenant that you will not contest any such determination via any suit or other legal action. Okay, so this is interesting because I didn't, maybe I misread the previous OGL, but the previous draft didn't appear to say that you will, that you won't ever personally engage in any such conduct. Because this actually seems to say that they get to revoke your access to the OGL based not just on what you do here, like on what's in here, but also on your behavior in the world, like everywhere in the world. So, like if you get into a Twitter fight with somebody, and who, come on, show of hands on, here, who is on Twitter who has never actually been in an argument with somebody, like a Twitter argument with somebody? Show of hands. It's going to take a few minutes because there's like a 10-second delay, but, so what is harassing? I don't know, like harassing in general, but you say that they have the sole right to have them decide. So what could be harassing? Well, let's say I say, hey, the new OGL sucks, and I tag Mr. Brinks in it or Mr. Brink in it. Is that harassing Mr. Brink? Wizards might think so because they don't really like me saying that the new OGL sucks. So they can say, hey, you're in breach. You're now not eligible to use the new OGL because you harassed somebody, to wit, our employee. What is obscene content? I don't know. Obscene is famously difficult to define. Harmful. What is harmful content? Again, I don't know. I've never been harmed by a role-playing game. I've read Fatal, but I've never actually been I can't say I was harmed by it. So yeah, this basically gives them the right to kick you out of the OGL for any reason or no reason, because if you can't actually contest this via a lawsuit, then that. Now, here's the really fun aspect of this. And this is where I think that this is also kind of badly written. Because let's say I write the Book of Sunshine and Kittens, and the Book of Sunshine and Kittens uses a bunch of OGL material because the Sunshine Kittens can cast Magic Missile, and I reproduce the spell Magic Missile in its entirety. And they fight owl bears, and I reproduce the owl bear monster in its entirety. And, then Wizards of the Coast says, you have engaged in hateful conduct because we don't like kittens in sunshine. We think that is discriminatory against, I don't know, nighttime and puppy dogs. So I'm going, okay, neat. I disagree with this. They say that I can't contest that via a suit or any other legal action. Well, you know who would have to contest that via a suit or legal action? Wizards of the Coast, because I just keep putting out the Book of Sunshine and Kittens, and I keep selling them. And Wizards says, guys, stop selling them. We really need you to stop selling those books. And I'm like, nah, printer go burr. So they're going to want to sue me, at which point they have to establish that breach. So, Wizards lawyers, stop it. Just stop it. I don't. So, yeah. And this is, kind of relevant here. Well, what's not harmful? Making a slave race of monkeys that many people believe is analogous to African slaves. Just ask Wizards of the Coast with Spelljammer. I mean, they literally had to withdraw a product as recently as, I don't know, 15 minutes ago? The Hadsity was real soon or real recent. So this notion that they're going to be able to take your products offline if they think that you screwed up in terms of, this is just ridiculous. And so I also see they're saying we've also got U.S. case laws saying that they cannot actually deprive you of being able to sue, and that might get a judge annoyed with you. I actually want to dig into that because, I mean, how would this end up going? I think that this is a bit of a defective contract. This may be a defective term for a few reasons, but yeah, I don't like this. I think that it should go, but Wizards has now doubled and tripled down on this one, because they've said that the whole reason for needing a new OGL is because of the scary clown, right? And it's not because they want to make huge money on their virtual tabletop. It's not because they're under monetized and worried that somehow you might have a wallet that still has $1 in it by the time you're done playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. They can't say that that's their concern. They've been saying that it's the scary clown. So do you really think that they're going to drop the scary clown provision from this? At this point, I feel that they have overcommitted to the scary clown threat. But they've just noticed, when we look at section D, the no endorsement section, you will not state, suggest, or imply that your licensed works are endorsed by or associated with us. This is the appropriate way to do it. we have the, yeah, and they note here, they literally changed the Hadazee to be the racial stereotype. It wasn't in previous editions. Yeah, they were just, they added this backstory that was like, that had people going, whoa. Yeah, as a DM, I'm really not liking Wizards going after my beer and snacks fund. That's how my players show their love. Yeah, I mean, DMs typically have paid the lion's share of the costs, but players have, which is why you go down and you sit down and people say, hey, we'll cover the pizza. It's like, cool. But now they want to make sure every player is having to spend as much as DMs have been spending. And they may find that they've got as many players as we used to have DMs. Yeah. Is it annoying being a Canadian lawyer, but then a lot of US-based stuff that people say is applicable, making it harder to dig into? Yes, and the US has different laws in different states, which makes it even more annoying. The thing is as a Canadian lawyer, I am one state behind most US lawyers in terms of all of this because there's just, so many different rules. But yeah. So the turtle should be banned because it's insulting the reptilians that ban the world. Yeah. But we just want to protect you. Sounds like another organization that specializes in protection. I mean, the thing is the whole thing of like, if you don't let us do this, then the scary clown wins is how people sell bad agreements. And yeah. Isn't role-playing one of the best ways to confront stereotypes and dysfunction in society? You bet. I played a game with a group that I will describe as a very diverse group. And I asked them, like, what do you want to do in this game? Like, what is it you want to do? And they actually wanted a pretty racially discriminatory government that they could fight. And I was like, cool. Please don't key my car if I have, because, now I'm running this group of NPCs who were, to put none too fine a point on it, bastards. And so the whole point was that over the course of the campaign, they got to throw down all of this stuff and destroy it. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. This is what we want. I don't know if I could put that out as a product, because I suspect they would say, hey, listen, you fighting against what was basically, fantasy World War II. You can't include that because that's bad. So, yeah. I see if Wizards tries to make my players pay, they may not have the funds to bring me some. I've played games with people who had literally no money. I mean, I played with a guy who literally walked because he walked to where we were playing because he did not have the money for bus fare, and he did not have the money for a book, and he just came in and borrowed dice, and we played. I was glad to have that guy at my table. He was a good player. He was and like D&D has typically been a game that attracts a whole lot of people who are sort of marginalized, in part because it was super financially accessible. And if you're talking about people who are experiencing marginalization in society, one of the ways that happens is financially. And so if you want to say, hey, we want to cut out anything where there's, we want to ban all this content, but we also want to super monetize it, you are actually making it a more discriminatory game in practice, because fewer marginalized people will be able to afford to play it. But I mean, they like marginalized groups so long as they have money, is what it comes down to. They like everybody's dollars spent equally is really what they're coming to here. All right. Could you theoretically sue for defamation for false labeling of content? They are saying, I mean, that's interesting. I think that there's an argument, but yeah. I see. I don't trust orc licenses as much as OGL. Any license can be changed and include censorship and even ban entire forms of media. Depends how the license is written. We haven't seen the orc, so we don't know yet.
I trust CC BY, clear, simple, and will be safe from corporate greed. And if they had licensed this entire thing under CC BY, we'd be doing a very different take review, because as much as I've said I like this clause here and this clause there, if they'd said this was CC, Creative Commons BY, I would say that it is fantastic. So, yeah. All right. And somebody had brought up a super chat here. This is messed up, and they're absolutely including it. They can revoke your license for a Twitter post, or say for a YouTube video where I described their OGL as being bad. And your OGL is bad, Wizards. Your OGL is real bad. Oh, is that harassing content? Am I kicked out of the OGL now? Like, so yeah, it's messed up. And I see question: does this mean my niece's character in her book she wrote years ago stay characters in her book if she uses them as a D&D character one time? Yes, the OGL probably doesn't affect that at all. But if you're concerned, you may want to talk to a lawyer. So I see Wizards of the Coast has banned a YouTuber in the past for memes. I don't know what the meme was. I mean, there's certain memes that I might not invite somebody into my house for. Like, if you're, but like, let's say you just wanted to, like, let's say I get a license from, J.K. Rowling. I'm going to make, she calls me and says, Runkle, hey, I've seen your content. I really like that you like guns, because as a British person, we love guns. And I really want you to do the adaptation of Harry Potter for D&D. And can you get that going? Well, would that be considered hateful content? I don't know. And, I see people saying, or, so I don't know. But I don't like the idea that Wizards of the Coast, if I publish OGL materials, is going to get to supervise my behavior everywhere. Like, let's say I get into a fight at the bar, right? I get into a fight at the bar and, Gareth, that was a joke. Just, so, let's say I get into a fight at the bar and I get convicted of assault, to wit, punching a guy who was, being too mouthy at the bar. Do they get to kick me out of the OGL because I've now engaged in conduct that is illegal, even though it has nothing to do with the OGL? If I get an impaired driving, if somebody in the States where it's still illegal smokes a joint, do you get to be kicked out of the OGL? Yeah, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. So I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. All right, carrying on, because now I think we've covered this ridiculousness into the ground. And yeah. I mean, if Voldemort had a gun instead of a wand, I mean, he grew up in the Muggle world, a lot shorter book. Yeah, a shotgun would have solved this book in a real hurry, but I guess there's a reason why the Wizards don't want to get into a fight with the Muggles. It's like, yeah, we've got all these cool spells, but as it turns out, shotguns still suck to get shot with. All right, so I've been ranty about this section enough, but yeah, this is some real nanny stating, and it really applies to everything. Now, and again, if you say that it's in their sole right, then at that point, then like, how do you contest it if it's ridiculous? All right. Research may be off. State region maps confuse me as I don't live there, but the country in which they write the litigation, county in which they write the litigation will occur. Judges are elected. I guarantee Hasbro contributed to that. Yeah, I would probably want to know if they had accepted some major donations there. And I see here Jason Jacobson says YouTube makes itself the arbiter of COVID info, even though it's not a healthcare company. Wizards of the Coast makes itself the arbiter of equality, even though it has no expertise or involvement with the subject. This goes beyond YouTube, because like as much as we can talk about YouTube and their policies, and we certainly can. YouTube is a platform where they actually have the content hosted, right? This is this goes beyond that, because it means that you've got content like this can affect stuff that is nowhere near Wizards. It's just, if you have published something under the OGL, they can revoke you for this conduct, even if it's unrelated to gaming. Let's say you go to a convention and somebody alleges that you got drunk and were mouthy. Okay, now you can be banned. Like, this is ridiculous. All right. Make no mistake, the list of creators to be banned for hateful content is already compiled. I mean, they may have some people on their list, but I don't think it's going to be a complete list there. Wizards of the Coast is known for tokenizing people of color, so in a way they have that kind of experience. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast has not exactly had the best track run in terms of their depiction of many people. So there are lots of places where you can see that they'll be like, hey, here is the one black guy in town, and here is the, oh my God, the stereotypes. So, yeah. And I see somebody saying, am I finishing up Hardy's bag? I've started another one. I have attention deficit, so it is, is what I do here. Now, this is a place where I'm going to give them some actual props for the modification or termination, because I did not expect any of this. I expected some worse stuff in here than what we're seeing, and it's still not good, but I expected worse than what we're seeing. So what they've said is, so the previous OGL basically said we can vary this any way we want, just so long as we give you 30 days notice. And that's real bad. And I expected them to keep that. And the reason why I expected that is that I figured that they would take out all the nasty stuff and then wait for us to stop being angry. And then once we stop being angry, I figured that they would just say, haha, just kidding, it's all back in. Right? Because that's the weasel way to do it. That is absolutely something you could see them doing. And that's not what they did. I will give them actual props for actually listening to a certain degree here. So, seriously, actual points on this one. And I see people saying, look at section 9 before I promote this part. Yeah, I know, but come on. We'll get to all of that. But modification. We may only modify the provisions of this license identifying the attribution required under section 5 and the notice provision of section 9A. We may not modify any other provision. Now, some people have said, hey, look, there's a lot of stuff into section 5 and section 9A. Well, 9A, well, we'll look at section 5 again first. So section 5 is the you control your content. And people have said they can modify this whole section. It's actually just the thing they're saying is the attribution portions. And so that is basically how you say that you are attributing it. And that basically just is that if they sell the company, they can change it. If they want you to attribute it to, like, let's say they eliminate Wizards of the Coast as a separate thing in Hasbro and it's just Hasbro. So now they want you to, now they just want you to, attribute it to Hasbro. That would be fine. All right. So I see Open D&D. Hello, good evening. Hello. All right. So the other thing is section 9A, which is notices. We may notify you by any email or physical address we can locate for you. Only if we cannot locate your email or physical address after a reasonable search, notice via public channel is sufficient. You may provide notice to us of your email or physical address or any other notice by emailing oglnotices@wizards.com. Why do you think that they might want to be able to change this one? Well, who's ever emailed a corporate email address and found it to be no longer valid? I mean, of course they want to be able to change their email address. So, yeah, I don't see a huge problem with this one so far, at least in terms of the things they say you can modify. Termination. We may immediately terminate your license if you infringe any of our intellectual property, bring an action challenging our ownership of our licensed content. So if you sue us to say that we don't own this stuff, then we get to terminate your license. Trademarks or patents. Violate any law in relation to your activities under this license, or violate Section 6F. 6F was that morality clause. So keep in mind that the morality clause boils down to we can kick you out for any reason or no reason, and you don't get to fight us. So termination should be amended to just read, we can terminate your license when we feel like it. So this is not good. And for any reason or no reason. We may terminate your license if you breach any other term in the license and do not cure that breach within 30 days of notice to you of the breach. Notice that the cure that breach doesn't apply to like 6F. So, they can say, hey, we don't like this tweet. And you're like, oh, I'll take the tweet down. They're like, lol, too late, no good. So, yeah. Disclaimer of warranties and limitation of liability. So yeah, when they say, hey, we can kick you out for no reason whatsoever, I don't like that at all. You understand and agree that we are providing the licensed content as is and make no representation or warranty of any kind concerning your use of the licensed content, except as expressly stated in this license. We disclaim all warranties, express, implied, statutory, or otherwise. You bear all risk of using the licensed content, and such use is solely at your own discretion and risk. We have no liability to you for any types of damages in connection with your use of our licensed content, including without limitation any indirect, consequential, special, punitive, or exemplary damages, so long as our conduct at issue was not grossly negligent or intentional. So this is a waiver of liability such that you might find like at a go-karting place. Now, it makes a little more sense at a go-karting place because you can see how you might get hurt by a go-kart. I don't know how you're going to get hurt by the SRD. So, I mean, maybe they're saying, hey, listen, if we put out under the SRD, like the complete guide to, jihad, and you end up in Guantanamo, it's not our fault. But that seems unlikely. So, yeah. Yeah, and I see I'm throwing a like on this video, not on the OGL 1.2, which is just a shinier turd. Yes, this video, liking this video is not an endorsement of the OGL or of Wizards or of anything Wizards related, because Wizards specifically does not want us to be claiming any sort of endorsement or affiliation. And we're not going to break that. All right. I see somebody saying they put a computer virus in the SRD. Yeah, I guess that could be an example there. If they accidentally did that, seems weird, but that would also potentially be grossly negligent or intentional. So, all right, miscellaneous notices. We may notify you. Oh, we covered that. They're basically saying, hey, listen, sometimes you might be hard to find. Entire agreement and disclaimer of reliance. This license governs your use of our licensed content. This license contains or consists only of the terms expressly included herein, and not any matter not expressly included herein. In accepting this license, you represent and warrant to us that you have relied only on the terms of this license and the advice of your own counsel, which is not me, by the way. I am not your own counsel. I am just a guy on the internets. So don't put down that your lawyer is Runkle, because your lawyer isn't Runkle unless it is. And I see somebody saying their hyperlink to the VTT guidelines is broken. It's further in this document. It's in the original document here. So basically this is noting that the explanation that the Brink sort of text there isn't part of the document. That's fine. No waiver of rights. If we fail to exercise any right we have under this license, that failure will not prevent us from exercising that right in the future. So let's say you do a racism online and, you put out something online that is, objectionable. And let's say it's really objectionable. Like you put out something just that everybody says is completely trash. And Wizard sees it and goes, you know what? We're cool with that. And I'm not saying they would. This is a hypothetical scenario as we examine a legal question. And then 5 years later, they decide, you know what? Now we're getting a lot of flack because people say, hey, why didn't you deauthorize that guy? Or why didn't you kick him out of the OGL when he said that racist thing on Twitter? This clause basically says that their failure to do anything about it 5 years ago doesn't mean that they can't do anything about it now. That's what that means. So, and I see somebody saying, how much racism do you want me to doing? None. Do no racism. But this is a hypothetical. And, I don't think Wizards of the Coast realize that there are so many lawyers that play D&D. I mean, some of us got our start on legalistic thinking based on like rules arguments and having to read all of this stuff. So, all right. That's what that means. They reserve the right to lie in wait forever. Yes, it also means that they reserve the right to, for instance, allow as much racist content as they want. And just because they've allowed everyone else to put out racist content doesn't mean that they have to let you put out your racist content, which, I mean, fair enough in some ways, but yeah, this isn't like really an unusual clause. This is a clause I would expect to find. So I'm not making a stink about this one because it makes perfect sense. It's just, this is what it means. So I'm just explaining it. I actually think that this clause is fairly reasonable. Because you don't want to create an obligation on yourselves to, especially when you've created this situation of policing the internet. I see. What piece are you stitching together there? This is going to be a little dice container. All right. Severability. If any part of this license is held to be unenforceable or invalid for any reason, Wizards may declare the entire license void, either as between it and the party that obtained the ruling, or in its entirety. Unless Wizards elects to do so, the balance of this license will be enforced as if that part which is unenforceable or invalid did not exist. This is a change, folks. This is a bit of a change here because they've said, listen, we can decide that the entire license is void, or we can sever that particular bit. Previously, it just said that the bit that they don't like will be severed, or the bit that was declared to be invalid or unenforceable. So let's say, for example, that the court says, hey, listen, the waiver of jury trial is unlawful. You can't waive the jury trial in this particular jurisdiction, so jury is available. Well, now Wizard says, oh, because of that, we are actually just deciding that the entire license is void. Who does that benefit if the entire license is void? Well, Wizards, because you're the people putting out the content under the license. And so if the entire license is void, that means your license to use any of that content has gone away. So this is not an improvement from the perspective of the third-party content creator. Governing law / jurisdiction / class action waiver. So the reason why you want a clause like this is because let's say everybody gets pissed off at you all at once and they decide to sue you. You want to be able to defend this with your lawyers in your hometown with your home lawyer, like with your home law. So you don't want them to be able to drag you into, say, Canada to fight this one. So, because they really don't want to come to Canada. It's cold here. Have you seen the weather outside here in Edmonton? It's real cold. My dogs like it, but I don't. The dogs just really sort of, they love that. It's miserable out there. So this license and all matters relating to its interpretation and enforcement will be governed by the laws of the state of Washington, and any disputes arising out of or relating to this license will be resolved solely and exclusively through individual litigation in the state or federal courts located in the county in which Wizards, or any successor, has its headquarters, and the parties expressly consent to the jurisdiction of such courts. Each party hereto irrevocably waives the right to participate in any class, collective, or other joint action with respect to such a dispute. Class actions are a great benefit to the small person because class actions are basically a ton of small, a ton of little guys joining together and, not having to pay a million lawyers to fight the big guy. Now, if you are the person with the most resources, you don't want efficient. You don't want efficient sort of systems because the more people have to pay, the better that is for you. The less likely they are to proceed because the number of people with deep pockets is low. So I don't like any waiver of class action, but it's super common. So yeah, this is a clause I would expect to see. It's a very normal clause. It's a very anti, you clause, but it's a very normal clause here. All right. Headings and footnotes. This is a bit of an unusual clause, but it is what it is. The headings and footnotes contained in this license are for reference purposes only and shall not affect in any way the meaning or interpretation of this license. Somebody must have lost a case somewhere about having a footnote weird or a heading weird. But basically, they're saying like miscellaneous isn't part of the contract. So, okay, cool. Not a big deal. We're going over that for the purpose of completeness, but we are not this is not a clause that I think we should put much on. Waiver of jury trial. We and each of you each waive any right to a jury trial of any dispute, claim, or cause of action related to or arising out of this license. Now, I am not a big fan of these clauses, and I'm especially not a big fan of the U.S. system of elected judges. The reason why I'm not a fan of elected judges is because elected judges need campaign funds, and campaign funds have to come from somewhere. And you better believe that people remember who their donors are because you would be crazy not to. And, I would be annoyed to find out that Wizards was a donor if I was running one of these things. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I mean, I can see some reasons why they might donate to campaigns for judges they perceive to be friendly to large businesses like themselves. So jury trials, I think, tend to help the person with the sympathetic cause, which is usually the underdog. Usually the underdog is who juries benefit. So, and in criminal trials, usually they benefit the state. All right. So I don't like a waiver of jury trial. It's not the biggest aspect here, but it's not my favorite thing. Review by counsel. You should seek advice of counsel to make sure you understand this license. You agree that you've had the opportunity to do so. That's just there to try to make it less likely that somebody could weasel out on the basis of saying, I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. I don't know that that's sort of a huge factor here. And that is the end of the OGL. It's better. I will say that it's better. I don't think that it's good. I think that there's some clauses in here that are fatal. I do not want to sign a contract that the other side gets to kick me out of unilaterally with no ability to do anything. So the content that I had been thinking of putting out under the OGL, I am not putting out under any OGL. I may still put it out. I got to decide what I'm doing with it. I got some options. One, I'm waiting to see what the orc looks like, because the orc is the orc might be way better. And if the orc is good, then you might see me doing a hard shift to talk a lot about Pathfinder, and you might see me saying, "Hey, let me update my campaign setting. We're going to do a Pathfinder campaign." And I mean, my campaign settings got some things in there that actually, that actually are tied into D&D mechanics. For example, in my campaign setting, there is a goddess of the dead, and that goddess of the dead is she is also known as the Diamond Queen. One of her nicknames. She's got several. Most of the gods have several nicknames, but one of hers is the Diamond Queen, and the reason why is because she, in the afterlife, sits on a giant throne of diamonds on a giant hill of diamonds. And the reason why that's the case is because if Wizards of the Coast, if you want to cast Raise Dead or Resurrection in Dungeons and Dragons, you need to burn a diamond to do it. That's the material component. Well, it kind of creates this tie-in, right? Where there's now a reason for that material component other than just it costs a whole pile of money. The reason why is basically you got to give the goddess of the dead her cut. So, yeah. And I see CC buy is greater than orc. I agree, but nobody's putting it out under the CC buy. Wizards of the Coast is going to claim that they've done that, but the things that they're putting out under the Creative Commons license are actually things that they don't get to license at all because of that. So, yeah. You got to pay the soul toll. Yep. OGL seems better. The stinker is in the VTT policy. Oh, there's some stinkers in the VTT policy. You betcha. Because they want to say we are supporting VTTs. We are allowing VTTs. You better believe they're going to have some stuff in there. So, yep. So will my group who play on Map Tool and run mostly 3.5 ed games using Homebrew found on MinMax have to change anything if this goes through? The first thing is that it'll get real hard to make Homebrew for 3.5. Nobody else is going to be making 3.5 Homebrew, or at least you can't they'll say that you can't do that anymore because right now that's there. I see people saying, can we do the VTT policy? We are going to do the VTT policy. That's happening next. And I don't know Map Tool. I've never used Map Tool. I don't know which features it includes, but we will see because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's banned under VTTs. So, please support the COLA system, kind of like anime system. By using it, I will get no money from it, and I don't want any. I just want a cool system that people like. I don't know that one, but I will try to check that out. All right. Wizards of the Coast LLC Virtual Tabletop Policy version 1.0. So, let's have a look at that because this one's real short. It's just like a page, but it's also real ugly on that. So we're gonna see, and this is what I poured the scotch for, folks, because I'm gonna need the scotch. I'm just gonna tell you, scotch is a great drink because you can use it for when you're, it's a good celebration drink, and it's also a good drink for when you're doing the opposite of celebrating. And this is something that I feel calls for the opposite of celebrating, which is probably swearing of a sort that YouTube won't let me do. So we're just going to proceed. All right. As gamers and big fans of virtual tabletops, yeah, you are already lying to us. We are announcing this new virtual tabletop policy as part of the rollout of OGL 1.2. You're big fans of tabletops, and yet you specifically excluded them from your prior versions of the OGL. Do you think we are stupid? Like, how stupid do you think we actually are here? Because if you were big fans of virtual tabletops, you wouldn't have specifically and explicitly excluded them before. You lying sacks of monkeys. Yeah. I see somebody who's asking, or somebody saying, sorry, just got home from work. Very concerned about the obscenity clause when historically obscenity laws have caused problems for minorities / LGBT. Yeah, I mean, you might be saying, listen, and I've seen some LGBT creators saying, listen, we are glad that this is in there because there are some, discriminatory people making content we don't like. And here's the thing is that let's say the tide of public opinion turns. There's a bunch of people out there right now who are very anti-LGBT. They could very well say, hey, listen, your LGBT friendly content is now something we consider is offensive. And so, yeah, if you are popular now, you may not be by the end of it. So they absolutely could. And if you look at cases in Canada, like Little Sisters Bookstore, you can see just how that was used against these groups. Because, yeah. And somebody was asking, had I looked at a particular super chat? I'm bringing that one up now. So Wizards of the Coast can intentionally add unenforceable poison pills so that in all jurisdictions they can toss the whole OGL at their whim. That's a dangerous game because if the court thinks you're screwing with them like that, then they tend to find ways to punish you. I would not play that game if I was Wizards, but Wizards has not exactly been playing sensibly. T.A. Hawkins says the point is they can look in your Twitter past. Yes, absolutely. They can. And I mean, I don't like the idea of kicking people out of the OGL because they're bad people. Like, that's just nuts. This one we covered, so I will. Yeah, OGL seems better. Stinkers in the VTT policy. Yep. All right. Shouldn't Wizards TOS protect them rather than an OGL? I mean, really what protects them is we just made the OGL. Anybody can use it, and it's not us if somebody else makes something else there. And yeah, my understanding is that LGBT content gets taken down on DM's Guild often already as obscene, so I already don't trust the direction of these wins. Yeah. Don't assume that they're going to use this power reasonably or rationally because they have made no indication of that, quite frankly. So there seems to be a lot of blackpilling about the orc also containing an offensive content condition. Is there any evidence of that other than Paizo generally? No. I have not seen anything of Paizo promising that. And in fact, the way Paizo has basically promised to do it, I don't see that that this is looking as likely. So no, I don't. I think that this is a lot of people just kind of saying we don't like Paizo and some of their takes, which is fair. That's fine. But I don't see any evidence that Paizo's doing anything there. All right. Yeah, there's no evidence as to what the orc will be like or contain yet. We just don't know. We can't assume. Yeah, morality laws have always been used against minorities. It's straight up. I mean, it is a pro-majority clause. All right. Why does Wizards need a virtual tabletop policy? Okay. We support the role VTTs play in the tabletop space. The ability to game remotely means more people can game. And it's wonderful that people thousands of miles apart can share a space as though sitting around a table. But as virtual tabletops advance, their functionality will raise tricky questions. It really won't, though. Where's the line between a virtual tabletop and a video game? Well, that one's pretty easy. Like, a virtual tabletop allows people to play D&D and not, so yeah. Somebody's saying, why not let the marketplace decide? Well, the reason why they will, why they don't want to let the marketplace decide is because they have notions that the marketplace is going to decide that their product sucks. And the reason why is because they want to make their product suck in ways that make you have to pay lots of money. They know people aren't really going to like the idea of microtransactioning everything, but they really think you're going to do it so long as there's no other tabletop there. Erie, I see your super chat there. I've got it starred, but we will get to it soon. When does a virtual tabletop become more than just a replacement for the traditional tabletop? Those questions require thoughtful answers. And you know what we trust wizards for is a thoughtful answer. Answering them will take time, and we want this policy to reflect your input. So we'll be asking for feedback and talking to you about our goals as that discussion advances and new technology emerges. Okay. Now note that this virtual tabletop policy is not the same kind of license as the OGL. They are maintaining the right to change this at whim. So everything I said about how it was better that they were taking that modification clause out, well, that doesn't apply to this section. This section's just bad. All right. What is permitted under this policy? So, using virtual tabletops to replicate the experience of sitting around the table playing D&D with your friends. Do I have to like replicate the smell of the creepy guy who kept showing up at the one, game store I was at, or like the way he kept looking at, certain members of the group until we eventually agreed that we were going to play somewhere else? Like, is that something we got to replicate? Because I don't know how I can replicate creepy dude who makes women uncomfortable. I guess we'll have to figure out how to simulate that if we want to do a virtual tabletop. So displaying static SRD content is fine because it's just like looking in a source book. You can put the text of Magic Missile up in your virtual tabletop and use it to calculate and apply damage to your target. Okay, cool. And automating Magic Missile's damage to replace manually rolling and calculating is also fine. Cool. So far, so good. The VTT can apply Magic Missile's 1d4 plus 1 damage automatically to your target's hit points. You do not have to manually calculate and track the damage. All right. None of this is something that they should have a power to really deal with, but so like, and I see a comment I want to star and come back to. So just noting that. I see Rob's candle he got from Andy the Game Maker for the smell. Yeah, they do actually make really terrible smelling candles. So yeah. So they note here, what isn't permitted are features that don't replicate your dining room table storytelling. If you replace your imagination with an animation of the magic missile streaking across the board to strike your target, or your virtual tabletop integrates our content into an NFT, that's not the tabletop experience. That's more like a video game. Well, first of all, how the heck does NFT play in here? Like, where does the NFT aspect come in? Because, I mean, do I have to do the scary clown again? I feel like this calls for the scary clown because NFTs, I feel like we all know they're a scam at this point. Like, at this stage of the game, if you sign up for Logan Paul's doomed project of the, whatever it was, his Pokemon replacement that is all NFT based, or, crypto based, what was it? Crypto Zoo. I feel like that's on you, right? So who the heck, NFTs seem like that ship has sailed. I see less and less stuff on that. And somebody out there, okay, I'm seeing people are saying I got to roll the NFT footage. So this is why they're doing the NFT stuff, because of this. Oh, and I'm seeing somebody saying that they're phobic, so I've stopped the clown. Sorry about that, Eva. I will try to find a different scary footage. I will find a guy who is... I'll find something else that's scary. But you get the idea. It's the scary clown. That's what they're doing. So that's what NFTs are in here for, is that everybody at this point hates NFTs. Everybody associates them with kind of a particular jerk. And yeah, that's really what they want to do. Now, in a different era, this might have been terrorists. If you go back to, sort of the George Bush era, they might have said, you know what, we have to do this to stop terrorists from playing Dungeons and Dragons. Or they might have said, we have to do this to stop, CP from being made out of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know how you'd get Dungeons and Dragons CP, but nobody give me any, nobody link me to anything. I will be super upset. And I see it's aimed at Alchemy VTT. Yeah, there might be some. And the wild thing is Hasbro is selling NFTs. I feel like the NFT project, you can just let them fail on their own because NFTs are dumb. And businesses that do NFTs are also kind of pyramid schemy. So, yeah. But they're saying if you replace your imagination with an animation of the magic missile streaking across the board to strike your target, or your VTT integrates our content into an NFT, that's not the tabletop experience. Let me tell you about a tabletop experience from like 15 years ago, folks. Because let me take you way back to, Runkle in his 20s. Doing math here. Yes, I would have been in my 20s, I think. I'm getting old enough where I have to actually do head math, and I'm a lawyer. It's not great, but so, I was playing at a table, and this was a new table that I was, sitting down at, and this table involved a guy who was a bit of a nerd. Shock, right? Who is shocked and horrified that there was a nerd at a Dungeons and Dragons game, right? Like, just unbelievable. How dare they? So this guy had set up an overhead projector, and that overhead projector was aimed downwards onto the table. And that overhead projector had lines, like bright lines, to show the grid. And so our figure, like we moved our minifigs around on the grid, but he also had the ability to do things like drop a fireball, and so when the DM was, said, hey, the party gets hit with a fireball, he could project a fireball onto the board and with our figs, and we could be like, hey, my character is clearly targeted by this fireball. We have been doing stuff. I see. Whoops. You were in your 20s 15 years ago. Man, you're young. I'm 42. So I'm doing the math on that. Overhead projector. How friggin' old are you? It was like a computer projector, like a, not like the overhead projector with like the acetate or anything like that. But, I mean, we had the ability to put down, a fireball animation. Tabletops have always been as interesting or as, as we could make them. So if you replace your imagination with an animation of the magic missile streaking across the board to strike your target, that's more like a video game. Well, I don't feel that it is. And you know who else doesn't feel like it is? Wizards of the Coast. Because Wizards of the Coast is promising a virtual tabletop that will do exactly this. And they're calling it a virtual tabletop, not a video game. So why wouldn't we take their word for it on what that is? Let's sigh. That doesn't feel like a virtual tabletop. That just feels like a pretty cool, or like a video game. That just feels like a pretty cool virtual tabletop. I mean, to me, what defines the difference between a video game and a virtual tabletop is that the video game is being determined by a computer, whereas the virtual tabletop exists in the head of, your friendly local DM. So they're saying they don't want people to make cool virtual tabletops. Yes, that's pretty much it. Like, yeah. May I make my own virtual tabletop owlbear token look like the one from the monster manual? This is just a basic copyright question. No, we've never licensed visual depictions of our content under the OGL, just the text of the SRD. That hasn't changed. This is fair, right? Like, there's no reason for them to necessarily license the owlbear picture. Cool. But you can create a creature called an owlbear with a stat block from the SRD. You cannot copy any of our owlbear depictions. But if you've drawn your own unique owlbear, or someone else did, you can use it. This is fair. I got no beef with this. So I'm seeing this as a really... We used flash paper to simulate fireball and magic missile. Yeah, I've done all sorts of, all sorts of neat stuff like that. So much for token editors, at least if you're putting in other people's stuff. What about the OGL 1.0a? Does this policy apply to that? Yes, you can upload your already licensed content to a virtual tabletop. I own or operate a virtual tabletop. How does this affect me? If you are a virtual tabletop owner or operator who supports OGL products, guys, this is where you want to be listening. So if you're like me and you're sitting around sewing something, you might want to set it down for a second. You have the same obligations for virtual tabletop content that any other website owner or operator has for copyrighted content under the DMCA. Did you hear that quiet little bomb that they just dropped on the community? You know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be sending a ton of DMCA notices to the virtual tabletops saying, hey, your players, they're doing stuff on your virtual tabletop that we don't like. One of them uploaded the content of a spell from Tasha's. We don't like that. You have to start taking down your players' campaigns. And you know what's going to happen to that virtual tabletop that, has to start taking down people's campaigns because they happen to use, an owlbear picture or or they copied in the text of a spell from, a different book. People are going to stop using those tabletops. So they're planning to, use the legal system against other virtual tabletops. And they are telling us this. They are telling us this directly. So, yeah. And, if your virtual tabletop, I see... or they used an animation for Fireball. Yep. So, I mean, I have done things where I've printed out on transparent sheets of paper, or plastic, an image of a fire blast for the purpose of, then you can use it to measure out your area of effect, right? You just hold it over the board and it looks like there's fire in a particular place. And you're like, cool. We've always been trying to do that. So, and I see Alex is saying if virtual tabletops don't make D&D 6e available to use, they can continue as normal, right? Wrong. They're saying that this applies to 5th ed. And right now, there's no indication that 3.5 or 3rd ed will be approved at all. So, yeah. If you're running off your own machine, I don't know how they'd find out you were doing it. Don't get caught is not a great legal position. So now, yeah, they might as well say only text-based virtual tabletops are allowed. Yeah, it's like they're sitting there going, hey, we are doing this whole fancy virtual tabletop that's going to have all this stuff, and no one else can do that because that's a video game. Come on, guys. You just want to make sure that you want to be able to say, oh, we're not trying to shut down other virtual tabletops. We're just requiring them to suck. We're just requiring that all other virtual tabletops be unusable garbage. And then that will just, that'll solve the problem. Come on, guys. Come on. The other thing is that there's a whole lot of features that are super, super common in virtual tabletops because they're kind of basic stuff that might be covered under this. One of the big examples is Fog of War, because if I'm the DM and I have my entire map on the board, do I really want the players to be able to see my entire map with like where the treasures are and where the monsters live and so forth? Not really, because at that point my players are going to avoid all of the encounters that don't need to be fought and find every single treasure room in record time and then get the heck out. So that doesn't seem like something I'd want, which is why Fog of War is super common. Another one is dynamic lighting and dynamic vision, because a lot of things allow for you to say like, hey, these are walls, and define and show what players can see based on where they're standing. This is a great feature. It's a real reason to play a virtual tabletop. This is in fact one of the things where a lot of the time what we've been seeing is people playing games that are basically enhanced tabletops. There's a lot of people who are playing at home, and you'll see tons of things online where they will say, where you'll see people who've done things like built a gaming table that has a big flat screen built into it so that you can put your miniatures on the flat screen, but you can actually use a virtual tabletop so that you can change the picture, so that you can have dynamic terrain, and so that you can do things like having dynamic lighting, and so that the DM doesn't have to, keep reaching over the DM screen to move the monsters around, or going like, hey, you, like Joe Bob, can you move my orc 3 squares to the northeast? No, my northeast, not your northeast. Like, this kind of stuff, right? So all of this is, a big sort of issue there. Tim, I see your comment. I'm just tagging it. We'll get to it. Dynamic terrain was always a thing. It's called layers of construction paper. Yep. So a lot of what they're doing here, I really don't like. There's other stuff that might be there. Like, I've got a machine here, and I'm just going to try to switch my audio over. We'll see if this actually works. Did you guys hear the Wilhelm scream? I don't know if I did or if I screwed that up, but I've got a little stream deck, and I'm planning to do a video. Oh, sorry, was that too loud? But like, if you watch the Lawyers and Dragons game, there is a there's a moment where I'm sitting there and I'm talking about what my character is doing, and I'm just sort of pulling it up here, and I described it as, hey, I did what was it, 24 points. That's great. Like, I will tell you that when I have run a tabletop game now, I bring this little thing with me now, and a laptop and a speaker, because it's really, really cool to be able to bust that out and be like, hey, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna play with a sound modifier. I'm going to, like, a voice modifier. I'm going to play with, I'm gonna, you guys get hit with a fireball out of nowhere. I'm gonna throw that in. What you do at a tabletop has really really changed over the years as technology changes. So them saying like, listen, we get to decide who is and isn't a virtual tabletop based on what features. And the other thing is, let's talk about this other thing. I don't know what the best feature is going to be. Like, I don't know what the coolest thing that you can add to a virtual tabletop is. But this is one of the reasons why I really like competition in the marketplace, because somebody out there on a virtual tabletop is going to be sitting there and going, you know what? I have an idea that will just make the game so much better. And that person should be able to do their idea without needing to worry that suddenly they're going to get sued into oblivion. I see watch Critical Role's reaction. They use a lot of these techniques. I don't watch Critical Role. I mean, I know it's popular. I've never gotten into it. Have Critical Role put out a reaction to this new OGL? That would be interesting because I suspect they're under NDAs that prevent them from saying things like, yo, this sucks. But yeah. So is bonk damage calculated differently from standard melee? It was bludgeoning damage from catapult. So, I just don't know, right? There's all sorts of possible things here. So I don't like this at all. So yeah, they're very clearly intending to use this, to use the DMCA as a weapon against virtual tabletops. We're going to see a hell of a lot of that coming up. All right. You say this is a conversation. Does that mean this policy can change? Yes, we need your feedback as the tabletop space evolves. The potential of virtual tabletops is tremendous and exciting, and we don't want to harm their development. They absolutely do want to harm their development. They want to harm the development of every tabletop that isn't virtual tabletop that isn't theirs because they want to have their own, which is going to be a microtransaction hell. And it's really interesting that they're like, oh, you can't have NFTs when really they want to have all these microtransactions and so forth. Yeah. And let's see, this is more like an FAQ, not a policy. Yeah, there's no real solid legal language in this. And yeah. I see, how do you imagine that this will affect OSR games and retro clones that do not use the SRD? It's difficult to say because that depends on the specific ones. So lots of people who are didn't know that I played tabletop role-playing games until this OGL stuff. You should have known I was a total geek. I mean, I feel like that was never a secret. Looking through some super chats here. Spell effects, straight to jail. Dynamic lighting, jail. Fog of War, you bet, believe it or not, also jail. P.S. Try out our new super dynamic virtual tabletop on D&D Beyond. Yep, 150% this. This is what they're doing. Nobody else can do these features. Only we may do these features. And so you need to come to us or else everything else will suck. Yeah. Hot take. I'm less concerned with the option of an AIDM. If your table is okay with an AIDM, that's your choice. Would it be as good as a real person? Probably not. Would it be passable? Possibly. They've said that the AIDM stuff is a fake rumor, and that seems likely. I see. They also want to kill things like Tailspire, which is actually pretty cool without all this BS. I haven't played around with Tailspire. I've seen stuff about it, but I haven't actually dug into it at all. Anything Wizards of the Coast does in virtual tabletop to shove microtransactions or limitations will accomplish two primary things. Push piracy hard, for one, and push people to alternative systems. I don't really... I'm looking at alternative systems. They have no idea how little control they can practically have. They have this idea that all of the people who are playing Wizards of the Coast have strong lock-in, and I mean, they might be right, but I don't know. This would cause it for fog of war and sound effects? Quite possibly, yes. Damn, there goes my laser pointer and Black Cat simulation of a Displacer Beast attack. Displacer Beasts would not cause nearly the damage as all of this. So, as a cat would, chasing a laser pointer. Speaking of determined by a computer, their virtual tabletop will have an AIDM. Again, they've denied that. You can't do that, though. Straight to jail, as with the last super chat. Yep. I mean, they've denied that, but who knows? I mean, I suspect that at some point they will try it. I can tell you that experimenting with various DM AI programs out there, so far they're not the greatest at holding a story. They forget where they are, so suddenly you're in an office building when you were in a forest, or vice versa. Yeah. What the RPG community needs is a full decentralized virtual tabletop where you can install user-made templates and data. They could fairly this could be fairly easily accomplished, and the templates could almost never be tracked and traced. Yes, this would be fantastic, but we would have to see. Role of law, the Cena Fair doctrine would shut down a lot of potential BS from Wizards of the Coast as well, e.g. content that is so common within the genre that it just can't be claimed. So basically, if you're not familiar with what this doctrine means, is that there's just some things that are just kind of part of running a story. So, for example, the idea of a love triangle in a, in a story that appears in like everything, because at the point where they start, if you watch a show, they start with the will they, won't they, and then after the will they, won't they, there's like, now it's who will he get with, and I'm always like, who cares, because romance stories are always my least interesting ones. But yeah, I've yeah, you are past the 2-hour mark. Just thought I'd mention it. That is good to know. Just good to know. So yeah, Cena Fair would affect some of that. I know what the worst virtual tabletop feature is: microtransactions. And yeah, that is the whole point. They want us to be paying subscription stuff and so forth. I found the AI DM rumor kind of credible, since the number of DMs is essentially a limiting factor in the adoption of D&D, but maybe not a launch feature. Yeah, I mean, I could see why they'd want it. They've just denied it for right now. The guy who reported that has backed away from it and is not necessarily a is not necessarily a credible source of information. Like, really, at this point, you should be looking at the people who are providing, like, being the sources of information, and evaluating how good they are at actually providing you useful information. And if one source keeps burning you and giving you bad information, then stop using them. Do you think the bleeding of subs from D&D Beyond is mostly DMs? Implications for the negotiations with Wizards of the Coast? I mean, Wizards of the Coast, I don't think they show a whole lot of signs of understanding the game market. Because if you want to understand the market, you really need to understand the player DM disparity. And, one of the things is that as a DM, I can tell you that if I post something up for a game, I can get players in real fast. And I don't mean because I've got, now a semi-successful D&D channel and a fairly successful law channel. I mean just posting as a guy nobody knows. I could create a new account that has no posts, go on to looking for group, and be like, hey, I want to run a game. We're going to be playing Thursdays at 3 a.m. West Coast time. You must be a player from the West Coast in order to join. I need a copy of your driver's license. You will also be required to get a tattoo with the campaign logo on it. And, you must also, like, I could put like a dozen different requirements. I'm trying to think of like ridiculous requirements here, but I could put it. You must submit a blood sample and a shoe print and whatever else, and I would still get people registering for that, and I would still have to turn people away. Even with a half dozen ridiculous requirements. The last time I posted something saying I wanted players on looking for group, I had something like 150 applicants. And it was not a question of like, hey, can I get people to play? It's which people. So anything you do that ticks off the DMs really puts you in a bad situation. You can annoy players. And like if I had a D&D game going on and I'm like, hey, tomorrow we're switching to Pathfinder, I can tell you that people would switch with me because they don't have a whole lot of options. It's find another DM, and there's not that many out there. So I note somebody saying, AI DMs are why Wizards of the Coast is okay with killing off the OGL and pissing everyone off, because they realize with AI DMs they don't need them. AI is a long way from being able to do a DM. AI is excellent for being able to, to do like racism and nonsensical stuff. It can do some pretty good images, but it really struggles with things like, telling a consistent story. And the other thing is that AI is going to have a real hard time with a lot of like the aspects of the game that actually bring people there. AI is like D&D is a social activity. And I mean, if I want to play a really good game with a computer thing, I've got dozens of them, like dozens. But if I want to play a really good game, where I can laugh with people and where I can say like, hey, like when I in what is it, in that courtroom scene, how's the AI going to lose its crap laughing when I rattle off Gimlet's name, right? And how's the AI going to know that it's funny to ask Gimlet to give his full name in court? Like, how would the AI know that? That's a moment that you just can't have with a robot at this stage in development. And maybe we'll get there one day, but yeah. So, yeah, what does an AI DM do if the players decide they're going to make a hole in the roof instead of using the marked door? Probably lose its crap. So, all right. So we've covered that. There's another thing I want to cover, and that is the fan content policy. And we're just going to expand this because they keep talking about how you can do all the stuff you like to do under the fan content policy. So let's talk about that. I've been threatening to cover the fan content policy, but given that they're saying you can still stream, you can still this, you can still that, you just have to use the fan content policy, it makes real sense to look at that. And I see we've got GM Jeremy was saying that he's looking for people for a Monday and Thursday game. My biggest problem right now is that I don't have a consistent schedule, so that's a problem. One day I'm going to hopefully have a consistent like Monday to Friday schedule again, and then I can start a proper campaign. All right. Wizards of the Coast fan content policy. We, that's Wizards of the Coast, are continuously amazed at our community's creativity and engagement. You notice how all of these things start the same dang way? Yeah. We love that you enjoy creating and sharing fan content. That's the stuff you make. And we want to encourage you to continue to create and share your stuff. Like, guys, you can't keep pretending that this is some organic statement when it's the same statement in everything. Like, ugh. This is why marketing is the worst discipline. Sorry, people with a marketing degree, but it's terrible. All right. You probably have a lot of questions about what you can and can't do with Wizards' intellectual property, IP. So we summoned our law mages. Guys, don't do this. To put together this fan content policy and FAQ. We hope that you understand that any restrictions in this fan content policy are intended to protect Wizards and its games. We've got to protect our IP if we want to keep the lights on. Okay. I actually don't care about that, to be honest, but let's keep going. In short, your use of Wizards IP and your fan content is governed by the same rules you learned on the playground. Share freely, keep it clean, and don't hurt others. Again, this is condescending in the extreme, but that's how they do this. That means we ask you follow these rules. One word, free, F-R-E-E. Wizards, you need to fire whoever keeps writing this material because they're not somebody you want interacting with the community. Just seriously. You can use Wizards IP, except for the restrictions listed in number 3, to make fan content that you share with the community for free. Free means free. And yeah, I'm just tagging some of the super chats there. You can't require payments, surveys, downloads, subscriptions, or email registration to access your fan content. Guys, there's a subscribe button below. I'd like to encourage you to go ahead and hit that if you haven't hit that already, just so that we can be outside of the grounds of what we'd be allowed to do under the fan content policy. Because if I make a members only stream or a subscriber only stream, then this would be a violation of the fan content policy. So yeah, when they're saying how many streamers out there do members only streams, lots, right? Lots of places do. So yeah, email registration, tons of people require an email registration. In fact, yeah, you can't sell or license your fan content to any third parties for any type of compensation. That's interesting. I mean, can I not even sell a copy of it? Yeah. Your fan content must be free for others, including wizards, to view, access, share, and use without paying you anything, obtaining your approval, or giving you credit. That's really obnoxious. We'll get to that because that is the theft provision that they're talking about. And, it's not really clear here because, what about, we're talking about monetization online, right? What about super chats? We'll just, bring up a super chat here. Bruce Aitken, thank you for the $2. Tim Riggs, I'm basically in the biz of client messaging and corporate management. I would have been fired for the drivel we've seen from Wizards of the Coast and their responses. Yep, and I mean, that's a good thing. Some people should maybe get fired. Eerie World of Warcraft, you're my favorite law mage, Runkle. Oh, thank you. Does the fact that I've got super chats on, does that mean that I'm outside of the fan content policy? So you can, however, subsidize your fan content by taking advantage of sponsorships, ad revenue, and donations, so long as it doesn't interfere with the community's access to your fan content. So it looks like I can take a super chat, but what happens if I say something like, hey, if I get $50 in super chats in the next 10 minutes, I will review this policy, or I will, do this. Does that mean that it's outside the fan content policy? I don't know. But I don't want to find out, so I don't want to use their fan content policy because it's awful. All right. Tell the community it's unofficial. Make it clear your fan content is not endorsed or sponsored by Wizards, i.e. unofficial. Please include a note with your fan content explaining that. Title of your fan content is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy. Not approved/endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast. Copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Don't hurt others. Please respect other people's IP. If you have the rights to use another person's stuff in your fan content, don't. If you don't have the rights to use another person's stuff in your fan content, don't. If we learn your fan content also includes other people's IP, for example, crossovers or mashups without their permission, we may ask you to take it down. I hate this kind of conversational language because sometimes it takes us out of actual legal things. Like, we may ask you to take it down. Great. I may tell you to, go pound sand, go French kiss a wood chipper. Like, okay, great. You've told me to take it down. I've told you to go to heck. How does that get, what they're saying is we're going to ban you for this. $50 per paragraph review sounds like a grift worthy of rackets. Yep, but I mean, I'm giving this as an example. I'm doing this because I want to. Don't hurt wizards. Like, don't run them over with a truck. Okay. We ask that you refrain from doing any of the following. Don't use Wizards, logos, and trademarks. We've included a list of our most frequently asked about trademarks in the FAQ. Oh boy, that sounds exciting. Don't mess with the legal notices in our stuff. If the Wizards IP you are incorporating into your fan content already has copyright notices, logos, trademarks, or other notices existing within it, don't remove them. Okay, cool. Don't use Wizards IP in other games. This includes your own or other people's games or game components, e.g. rule books, tokens, figures, regardless of whether it is distributed for free. Okay, so not a lot you can do with your fan content there. Don't use Wizards video or music in your fan content. We know our video trailers are awesome, but our use of our videos and music are governed by contracts with third parties. Please don't use any of our video or music content unless you're embedding a video from an authorized third party's website, e.g., Twitch or YouTube. All right. No bad stuff. Here's the scary clown provision, folks. We have the right to stop or restrict your use of Wizards IP at any time for any reason or no reason, including when we think your use is inappropriate, offensive, damaging, or disparaging, and we'll make that call in our sole discretion. If this happens, you must immediately take down your fan content or face the Demogorgon. Yeah, the big bad is back from being on loan. Okay, first, this is not a place to be cutesy. And second of all, anytime they say that they can stop or restrict you for any reason or no reason, you have no reason to believe that they're going to exercise this in good faith. So when they're talking about streamers can use our virtual, our fan content policy, note that it allows them to take down anything they want. Practice safe sponsorship. We understand that great fan content can sometimes require special equipment, e.g. videos, podcasts, prop fabrication. We are okay with using third-party sponsors to subsidize costs if you follow a few rules. 1. Don't use a sponsor that would be harmful to Wizards. Please don't promote our competitors or endorse inappropriate or offensive sponsors. This video is sponsored by, I don't even want to make up an inappropriate or offensive sponsor, but I guess they say don't get sponsored by OnlyFans. Hey, OnlyFans, if you want to sponsor this channel, call me. We'll talk. And certainly competitors to Wizards, I am down for a sponsorship. Honestly, just to cause them some grief at this point. I will say that all of the games that I'm looking at promoting, I don't have a sponsorship from. That may change, but so far, just looking to review them because I want to review them. All right. Make it clear, verbally or visually, that they are acting as a sponsor only, as opposed to what? Keep any shoutouts, mentions, and credits to a reasonable length. Are you guys editors now? The fans can really address this, because if I have guys, I can tell you right now there are 653 people watching according to Streamlabs' little ticker. And if I started doing a 45-minute long discussion of how great OnlyFans is, that would go down. That would go way down. I don't know why they're saying that this is something they want to control, and don't associate Wizards with your sponsor in any way. Yes, Wizards may or may not have an affiliation with OnlyFans. I can't say, but that's up to them. And what they do in the privacy of closed doors is entirely their business. Yeah. Follow the law of the land. If it's your fan contents, you are solely responsible for ensuring that your creations don't violate the laws of your region, country, plane, or dimension. Again, this is not a place for being cutesy. And I mean, I put out a somewhat cutesy, somewhat funny thing for my giveaway of something, but when you're threatening people is not the place to be cutesy. In addition to your policy, your use of any Wizards IP must also comply with Wizards' terms of use and code of conduct. Together, the Wizards' terms. So there's even more contract. If there's a conflict between anything in this policy and the Wizards' terms wins. Those agreements include important legal terms, such as limitations of liability, indemnification, and dispute resolution. So please review them carefully. Okay, don't make me do that. One last thing, please don't pull us into any legal battles. Our lawyers are busy enough. If Wizards of the Coast, our partners, affiliates, or employees get hit with any legal claims, fees, or expenses relating to your fan content, you're responsible for paying all of our costs, including attorney's fees, and any resulting judgment or settlement. So people were talking about pantomime. People were discussing, does pantomime include cosplay? No, pantomime is wizards thinking that they're funny. And Wizards of the Coast has never had a funny individual walk into their building. And, you know, let's make that clear here because they say, what kind of stuff does fan content cover? Pretty much anything you create based on or incorporating our IP. Fan content includes fan art, videos, podcasts, blogs, websites, streaming content, tattoos, altars to your cleric's deity, etc. This makes it pretty clear that like pantomime was just intended to be a joke, right? Because they're putting the same joke in this document, which is from 2017. So Wizards, the problem is that Wizards thinks they're funny, and Wizards isn't. Like, they're a bunch of marketing drones who really deserve a smaller cubicle, and you know they really wish that they were being clever here, and they think that people are laughing. And I mean, they're used to hearing laughter their entire life, and they've never really clued into the fact that it's always been at their expense and not with them. Yeah. The key is that it is your creation. It should go without saying, but fan content does not include the verbatim copying and reposting of Wizards IP, e.g. freely distributing D&D rules, content, or books, creating counterfeit or proxy Magic the Gathering cards, etc., regardless of whether that content is distributed for free. At this point, isn't implying a connection between OnlyFans and Wizards of the Coast grounds for a defamation suit from OnlyFans? Yeah, actually, I was maybe thinking of the wrong people who might sue me on that one. So, said it's one thing to have the Onion's lawyer be funny in an amicus brief for a case surrounding parody. It's another for lawyers to try to be funny when defining terms of service. Yeah, and I mean, you know, when I'm doing a giveaway for, you know, a thing, being funny in that is like, okay, this is lighthearted. Nobody's, you know, getting upset. We're talking about, you know, a company that is litigious and going to sue the crap out of you, as opposed to like, you know, hey, I'm disclaiming liability if you cut yourself with this knife that I just sent you. All right. So what is Wizards IP? Can I use all of Wizards IP? You can't incorporate Wizards patents, game mechanics, unless your fan content is created under the D&D open game license, logos or trademarks into your fan content without our prior written permission. And here are their trademarks that they don't want you including. Magic the Gathering Arena, and so forth. All of the mana symbols and the tap symbols. That's interesting because lots of fan content might include that. So bunch of other symbols here. I'm not sure what those are for, but so yeah. Does FanCon include web videos and live streams? Yes, we love it. Just follow the policies outlined above. Yeah. It just keeps going. All right. Now, the terms of service is this annoying sort of thing, which is stupid long, and we're not going to go through it. Code of conduct and community terms, again, has their annoying sort of language here. Be the paladin / your pet / best friend thinks you are. Great. So all of this, you know, this is actually a lot more spelled out, but yeah, I think that this is a little ridiculous here, that what they're trying to do, especially just the whole aspect of, you know, it's one thing to say we will ban you from our community for doing various stuff. It's another thing entirely to say we're going to ban you from being able to do anything on, you know, with like, we're going to make you have to take your products down off of the marketplace, which might have been wildly successful. You know, you might have sold 1 million copies of something, and then they're like, nah, we don't like the way you conduct yourself on Twitter. We're just going to take this down. So what do we do about this? Well, step one, keep making noise. And that means like videos like this, videos elsewhere, all sorts of, you know, that kind of content. keep talking about it on Twitter. Keep those hashtags of open D&D and, D&D be gone going, because they're going to be monitoring that stuff. Keep that going. Keep the conversations on Reddit and so forth. They want to move all of this to sort of a private space where they can see how much negative feedback they're getting and then just kind of sweep it under the rug. So let's not do that. Don't go see the D&D movie, because that is a big thing they're hoping for. They want this to be a big boost to their brand. They would love to make D&D the next. The thing that some marketing drone is just absolutely having a let's call it a private moment about, is the notion that D&D might be the next Avengers or, Marvel universe, right? And so they want that to be the thing, right? Where they can get paid huge money um, every time they just sort of have a thought there. So don't do that. Don't go see that movie, because if you do, that's gonna help them out in a huge way. We don't want that. Uh, don't And quite frankly, the D&D movie is probably going to suck anyway. But yeah, if you really got to see it, guys, wait until it's out on Netflix. Um, Wait until it's on, whatever else. Because, skip it in the theaters. Make it so the theaters are, running this for like 2 weeks or, 2 days and going, you know what? We'd rather run literally anything else, because this movie does not sell any popcorn. And I note here, uh, do not go opening weekend if you absolutely positively must see it. The longer you can wait to see it, the better. And yeah, if you really feel like you need a D&D movie, watch a rerun of Stranger Things. They still they still benefit from that, but less so. Don't buy D&D books right now, and let game stores be sitting there going, hey, your books aren't moving, guys, what the heck. So skip all of that. Cancel your D&D Beyond subscriptions if you've got one. Just let them know, hey, we're done with you. Don't So keep all of that pressure up. Do actually do the form. Like their form, let them know that you think that what they're doing is still garbage. It might not, it might get read. I can't say, one way or the other. And just like keep that pressure on right now. And the other thing is, if you happen to have any stock in Hasbro, now's a good time to sell, because their stock price has been going way, way low, and it's been dropping. And so long as it keeps dropping, that's going to get the shareholders going, wait, what? And if you want to see anybody fired who isn't, Mr. Brink, because Mr. Brink is, well, possibly on the brink. I mean, he should probably know that he's been given the role of lead actor in Firing Squad, but so he should know that he's in trouble on this one. But he's not the guy we care about. He's not the guy who made any of these decisions. So why not? The people who really need to feel this are like the CEO and so forth. Ms. Williams, Mr. Cox. I don't know who named that guy, but man, did they nail that. Perfection. A plus. So long as they feel that, we shall see. Because if that stock is tanking, you will see a shareholder revolt, and maybe the shareholders come in to rescue us. But yeah, right now they still, as much as they're making all sorts of noises about it, when you see that their noises just fall into the, sort of same pattern as every other statement they make, it's still just noises that they're making. They're just making mouth noises at us to try to get us to chill out. They're not actually getting any better. So keep it on, keep the pressure up. And I'm gonna be. I've got a game of Blades in the Dark organized. I'm going to be getting another round of my Stars in the Number campaign going soon, and we'll. So soon I'll be showing you off some. You can see what Stars Without Number is, and quite frankly, I think if you watch, if you watch the games that we've run so far, you can see we've been having a lot of play, like a lot of fun playing it. It's a good game. It's a fun game. There's a lot of fun to be had out there. So check that out. And I see if it dips enough, computers will put in sell orders. Yep. And then things start getting real fun. Lao Shi, thank you for making my day much better. Thank you for joining me. Much appreciated. Dear Wizards, per your virtual tabletop policy, I hereby demand you actually produce a Demogorgon or cease your request to take down my content. Thank you. That would be funny. If you want to submit a survey back to them and you have Twitter, complete the survey. Then before submitting, print it to PDF in your browser and tweet it out on a relevant hashtag. Keep it public. Yeah, they really want to take this out of, out of that. See somebody saying, please give advance notice for Stars. I want to catch it. I will. See, Stars Without Number is not only fun, it's a better system than 5e. I actually do like it better. Isn't Hardy's first adventure on Saturday morning? Yes, check that out. That is going to be on Prototopics, David's channel. It will be a lot of fun because, oh man, that has been a wild campaign. We're going to do Lawyers and Dragons as soon as Rick is ready. We might do something sort of, a little ahead of time. Rick has given his okay for that. So he's given his blessing for, hey, we can run something in the meantime. Yeah, that'll happen. Can you watch the Blades in the Dark game anywhere? The way I'm planning on doing this is we're going to record this and then I'll put it up online later, assuming that everything goes in a way that is streamable, right? Because if something goes haywire, if a player, and I don't think anybody sort of on my Discord is going to cause trouble, but if something goes sideways, or even just somebody says, you know what, I really don't feel comfortable with having myself up on the stream, then I can it. Like, that is how that goes. So that's how we do that. I say, to be honest, I've hated Wizards of the Coast D&D since the garbage that was 4E, so I have serious bias against them. I mean, they pulled this at 4E too, and they nearly killed the brand. So we will see. Which channel is Ian's birthday stream? I'll be celebrating my birthday too. It's going to be on Runkle of the Bailey. So that's where that's going to be. Any new content for Rick's channel forthcoming? I am planning on... I'm planning on doing a stream that will... So I bought this game. It is a really dumb game. It is called Choo Choo Charles. It's absolutely idiotic. At least the concept, which means it's probably going to be hilarious. It is about trying to race your own train around a map in order to build up your train so that you could fight another murder train. So that is the most crazy idea ever, and I love it for its craziness, because murder, like spider murder train. Come on, that's just amazing. So yeah, I'm probably going to stream that on Hoag's channel, assuming he allows me. Yeah, it's survival horror Thomas the Tank Engine. Yes. Also the Hot Ones challenge with Rob, assuming Rob can get the package from his post office in time. Yeah, so we'll have to see that one. I want to keep some stuff going on Rick's channel because we like Rick's channel. I've also got, there's a link, Roll of Law Discord, so that's up there. So yeah, we will do that. And I see GM Jeremy, I saw you saying that you ran Blades in the Dark tonight for 2 people who'd never played it before. I'm actually going to be trying something that has me a little nervous, but honestly a little optimistic. I'm going to run, like, this is going to be running Blades in the Dark. I specifically aimed for the first session, and that's, there will be more sessions, but for the first session, I'm aiming for people who've never actually played a role-playing game at all before. And the reason why is because I don't think Blades in the Dark is that hard, but it's also a game that I think can actually be more challenging if you have more role-playing game experience, because a lot of the assumptions in it are backwards. Things like the player decides what stat they're using as opposed to the DM. So I am going to try running it with some people who've just never played before. We're going to see how that goes. And if that goes well, I'm going to be like, hey, look, this is a really accessible game. It's something you can play even if you've never experienced a game before. And yeah. See, awesome about your Blades in the Dark for new players. Also, make sure your Discord and other links are below. Let me throw that into the description here if I can. Oh, it's going to give me grief on putting this into the description, isn't it? Give me a second. I'm going to try. Invite people. Edit invite link to forever. Copy and Discord link. There we go. Hopefully that will go into the description. No, it won't, because it's giving me grief. I will put that in later. Tim Riggs, I super chat too much, but I want to say this chat you have here, Runkle, is amazing and great people. I've subbed to keep an eye on your content. I think that one of the most important things about a channel is building a good community and finding good people that you... because your community and your chat are the people you're going to hang out with, right? So if you build a community of good people, then you will be a lot happier just running your channel. Because if you build a community of angry, upset, people who like causing trouble, it can be great for engagement for a while, but eventually you're just going to they're gonna turn on you. You're gonna hate your life. And yeah. So I'm putting some links in the description. I'm putting the Discord. I'm putting the link to the D&D Beyond post. Somebody was asking for that. And I'll also put a link to the Gundies, because why not? That is that's a fun one. I hope I win that. That'll just be hilarious. I don't know that I deserve it, but what does that have to do with anything? So yeah, those links are now in the description. So, all right. Now I think I hear my pups downstairs, and I can note my wife is out right now. And so the pups have been very annoyed because they have decided that I am kind of the discount off-brand version. And so they keep wanting to go and see outside because they want to be able to check out and make sure that she is not outside. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and we will I'll see you guys soon enough. I'm sure they're going to be putting out another version of this, but I'm really looking forward to be able to doing some of the stuff about talking about some of my other stuff. Like, I'm going to do a video that is basically why you should play other things. And so that's going to be, I'm going to start that with Blades in the Dark, but I'm going to also talk about Stars Without Number. I'm going to talk about Mutants and Masterminds. Going to talk about a bunch of games I really like. I see Melanie, sorry to have missed you. I'm going to be, it's going to be available on replay, so you can check it out there.
Lots of time to catch that. So always love the replay crew. Thank you for joining us here, and see you guys later. Cheers.